All right, so welcome today to the OCD Chronicles. I'm Scott Engler, and today I want to talk about the feelings that are underneath the obsessions. So what I mean about that is often I've found, and other people can certainly attest to this that I've spoken with. When I'm in a more of a active obsession, the symptoms are worse. It seems that in many, if not all of the cases, there are feelings that I'm running away from. And part of this, I think, is, I believe, at least for myself, is I feel that OCD is a way that I learn to kind of get in my head and find a happy place, or find a safe place where things made sense growing up in a very chaotic, dysfunctional household where things didn't make sense. And so that's part of, at least what I believe is my OCD did serve of a good purpose at one point. It was to protect me and, kind of give me like a refuge. That being said, what I found is that there's feelings that I am typically avoiding or not wanting to feel or experience, and that's part of why my obsessions might be worse. Now, the tricky part about this is that every single time I'm in the heat of an obsession or whatnot, that's like the last thing that I would think of. Like, it's the last thing that I would think of is that the OCD is not the problem. The OCD is a symptom. The obsession is a symptom of something lower that's more of a root thing going on. And what I believe is the root thing is typically some type of really uncomfortable feelings that I am running away from, that I'm not wanting to feel. And if you look at, and I personally believe pretty strongly that OCD is an addiction, and it manifests itself as any other addiction does. So if you look at any type of drug, alcohol dependency, gambling, pornography, any type of other addiction, they'll tell you, anyone that's gotten treatment for it, or anyone that counsels on that will tell you that the bottles, the gambling, all that stuff those are the symptom things. What's going on is it's more of a internal root thing of either not feeling content, running away from our feelings, right? We might be afraid because of whatever, or we might be really angry, right? It doesn't really matter what the feeling is, but you'll hear stories. It's like, they break up with someone and that triggers them to go relapse, right? Because it's too painful for them to deal with the anger. They need to numb it out somehow. So that's what I notice with OCD as well, is that even though it may not feel, I guess the trickier part is, even though it's tricky in the sense is it doesn't really, when I kind of go back to that place and kind of look at it that way, nothing about it really feels real to me. What feels real is that I need to resolve this obsession in my mind. Whereas I've found with, other addictions that I've had and compulsive behavior, it's, for whatever reason, it's not in the moment, but even sometimes in the moment, it's easier for me to see like, oh yeah, I'm just uncomfortable, and I'm not wanting to deal with this. Like, for instance, like a pornography or sex addiction. Often I've found that when I'm really striving to, go out with a lot of women or watch pornography, there's usually an emotion that is triggering that compulsion. And what I found a lot of times, it's that I feel lonely, or a lot of times it's that I just feel anxious. And so I see, going out with this girl or whatever it is it's like that's a refuge to escape from my feelings. And that's what I see OCD as. Although again, I would say for myself, I don't know why it's harder for me to make that connection with OCD. I don't really know why that is, but that's been my experience. At least that's what I feel like it has been compared with. It seems like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, it seems like once it was pointed out to me with like sex addiction or other, like that kind of compulsive behavior, once it was pointed out, like I read some article on like escaping, feelings of loneliness or anxiety and using pornography or sex as a way out. I don't know why it was just easier for me to then see that more clearly as a trigger, right? Whereas I'd still say for myself with OCD, it's so hard for me to see it, because I guess the difference is that with my compulsion, it's like I feel like something's wrong and I need to resolve it in my mind. So I'm at some level I'm like insane, where I'm convinced that is that's the solution to my problem. That's the refuge, right? That's like my saving grace. And today, what I'm trying to point out is just that if you're looking at your OCD as manifesting itself similarly to any other addiction, then why wouldn't it be the same kind of root causes? So what has been something I've been attempting to practice, not that well, but I know another friend of mine, this has been helpful for him as well, is looking at the feelings that we're trying to avoid and then feeling them, right? So me and him have talked about it. I even wrote down what feelings I've noticed that I'm usually trying to avoid that could trigger this. And so I wrote them down, and I'd be happy to share. One of them is grieving, losing, close friends. I don't speak to members of my family anymore, and it was by my choice, but it's still, there's that feeling of loss and grief. And so that's a really uncomfortable emotion for me that I try to run away from. Loneliness, definitely a big one. Part of the other one is like not having expectations of myself and where I'd be at my age, and not being there. Like, for example, like a lot of my friends are married and I'm not, and a lot of my friends have kids now. And so there's this kind of societal thing where I, at some level, feel like I'm doing it wrong, or I'm not good enough, and that's why I'm not in a relationship with kids. Like I'm, like it's this kind of this feeling of just, I guess, lack of self-worth, or rejection in some level. Sadness, I find sadness and depression, definitely really tough ones to just sit with and feel, right? It feels like it's never going to end for me. Shame is a huge one. Shame, rejection again, but like the rejection I'm thinking of this time is just feeling rejected by the people in my life, and not necessarily like the one I shared about not being married. So like just rejection, like I'm not accepted or I'm not lovable. Then there's the last one is not feeling seen or respected or interesting. And so I guess, some things I find is a lot of times I feel like, I'll be hanging out with someone and I just feel like they're so obsessed with themselves, and I'm just like, it's like I'm like a fly on the wall, right? Like I just feel like I'm just there, and they don't care about me. They just care about themselves. And I just feel this like intense feeling of like, wow, I'm like not even there, and I'm not important to, like it makes me feel not important is I guess the best way Or a lot of times it's like people interrupt me a lot, and I won't feel respected, or I won't feel interesting enough. And so these are a lot of the things that I've noticed will go on for me, and they're really difficult emotions, and a lot of them go back a long way, and I've ran away from a lot of them. Some of them I've felt a little, and then it comes back, and I don't want to feel it the next time. But I have noticed that when I do allow myself, like I'll give an example. Earlier this year, I had this experience where, the other one is being second best. Like I always felt, when I'd be like alone going on a date with a girl alone, I'd feel confident, but like I always remember feeling like when I'd be around my other guy friends that the girl was definitely not going to pick me. She was going to be interested in them because they were better than me. And I felt that way with girls I've dated. I've been afraid that, it's just only a matter of time that she's going to find out that I'm not, she could find someone better than me and she's going to drop me. She's like, there's no way I'd be the best thing for her. And so it's been this pattern. And so I had a situation where that got really triggered earlier this year. And I remember I was really upset. It was like, not to get into details, but it was really intense emotions that came up for me. And I'm not going to lie, I did drink a little bit to numb it out. But I did feel it a lot too. Like I really felt it. Like I was probably on a 9 or 10 on the scale of just this rejection coming up, like all these feelings. It was really intense. And so I remember I called a friend and shared how I was feeling. I said, this is what happened last night. Here's what I felt. I did the best I could in this situation. I gave this girl whatever it was like. Some girl came out with me somewhere and she ended up staying out because she liked some other guy. And so, and then I just, I said, hey, if you want to stay, that's your choice, and I just, obviously, like I understood that. So I definitely behaved a lot more maturely than I had in the past with situations like that. But, and just to get it, I just recently met that girl, so it wasn't like we were dating or anything. That would be different. But the point is that I had all these intense, heavy emotions, and then the next day, it was really, really powerful. And I woke up the next day and called one of my buddies and just kind of shared. I said, I'm really feeling this way. I'm really, I'm feeling like strong emotions about this. And the interesting part was, and then I did a little writing about it, maybe some resentments that were coming up. And then honestly, with no effort on my part, the next day, or like even later that afternoon, it was like I had released it. I had gone through that emotion. And so the reason I'm sharing that as an example is because I've also found, like with OCD, if I could either feel, when I've felt the fear, that anxiety that comes up, and I could just allow it to just surface and just like sit with it, even though it's like super uncomfortable. If I could just sit with it and just do my best to stay active, whatever I'm doing, but not to suppress the emotion with like trying to neutralize it with my thinking, that the obsession has subsided substantially. And the other one is, choosing, instead of like, oh my God, if only I could fix this obsession, my life would be better, kind of getting into that line of thinking, is to like say like, okay, just for me, like meditating, praying, what emotions or situations that are provoking emotions in my life am I trying to avoid right now? And almost always within, maybe an hour, a minute, a couple days, I will see what it is I'm trying to avoid. And then it's up to me if I want to really embrace that or if I want to go back to my obsession to kind of check out and numb whatever pain or uncomfortable feelings I'm trying to run away from. So that's really what I wanted to share about today. So if you're experiencing, a lot of OCD related thoughts and getting in the mix of it, I'd challenge you to practice some of the things I'm saying, which is what might be going on in your life that you're trying to avoid or not deal with or not look at, and what feelings are those bringing up for you, and to feel them, and I guess the other thing that helped me too is, you don't have to just feel them by yourself, like also share with someone you trust what you're going through. And then I did writing that one time. And so it just depends, but those are some of the things that have worked for me, and I hope that they could work for you. So take care, and until next time.